Hi everybody, I'm Michael Linke, General Manager of Membership here at the Australian Institute of Architects, and thanks for joining me on another Showcase session. Showcase is, of course, a program that introduces products and services from a range of architectural suppliers direct to you. And today, I'm pleased to be joined by BQE Software and their Chief Creative Officer, Steve Burns. Few things create more dread to an architect than having to do with project and office management, if really we only had more time spending doing what we love and what attracted us to the architectural profession in the first place. This showcase session looks into the latest cloud technology that's designed especially for the management of architectural and engineering firms. A little about BQE. BQE Software develops innovative practice management software to centralize and streamline the way architectural and engineering firms work and enter and use information. A little bit about Steve. Steve is a Chief Creative Officer at BQE Software. He's responsible for the overall look and feel of all marketing and media and branding and software applications. Steve was founder and president of Orange Loft LLC, developers of ArchiOffice, which is office and project management software for architects and other design professionals. In December 2009, Orange Loft was acquired by BQE Software. Steve really knows architecture. Steve earned a Master's of Architecture degree with distinction in design from Harvard University and then went on to co-found the architectural firm BBA Architects, which are based in Chicago. Steve joins me now live on the Showcase program from Los Angeles. Steve, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Wow, well, thank you, Michael, for that very generous introduction. And thank you, everybody, for joining me today. What I'm going to do over the next 35 minutes is share with you our native cloud platform called BQE Core Architect. And I'm going to hopefully demonstrate how, by using this platform, your firm will not only improve your profitability and cash flow, but you're really going to eliminate some of the most annoying and time-wasting and inefficient processes in your firm that really also take all the joy out of being an architect. And yes, I do understand that office and project management is probably the least sexy part about being an architect, but how to run a firm or be a good project manager is something most of us never really learned while we were in school. All of the focus was in the design studio with the assumption that we would all learn the business side of our profession when we went to work for somebody. But I guess where that firm learned its processes? As someone who has left the traditional practice of architecture to focus on development of software for professional service firms, I can really tell you with confidence that as professions go, architects are amongst the least profitable, and they utilize some of the worst management systems that I know of. So this has really kind of mystified me, because for professionals that really ought to appreciate the benefits of data, the beauty of organization, the importance of analysis, and the value of truth, you all ought to appreciate that management and accounting is actually the gateway to every firm's success. Now, before I take you into our core platform, I do want you to understand why we do what we do here at BQE Software. Now, for me, this image, which is inspired by the myth of Sisyphus, is how I see most firms operate. They basically have created their destiny of pointless and interminable activities, which results in unending frustration. And I'm here to tell you that unlike Sisyphus, there is actually an escape from that hell, but it does require an acceptance of technology and a recognition that the roles people play in your firm may need to adapt. And my personal belief is each of us deserves a business that has systems and processes in place that are as elegant as the architecture we create. And in order for that to happen, you need to apply the same time and care into managing your firm as you do your projects. Now, I have spoken with well over 1,000 different architecture firms, and I can confidently say that these are the 4 most common headaches that I see firms suffering from. So first is your ability to track your staff's time. And some firms make the mistake, they think tracking time is somehow necessary only if you're billing for your hours. So if their fees aren't based on their time, they just don't bother tracking it. It's not important. This is one of the most egregious oversights, since the largest expense to any firm is your payroll. understanding where your staff spends their time, what they're doing. It's a necessity to have a full understanding of your firm's financial potential. And as the old adage goes, time is money. So how you invest your time is just as important as how you invest your money. And the time that you're spending this very minute to attend this webinar, it's taking you away from time you could be spending on a paying client's project. And my job is to make sure that that was a worthwhile investment for you. Now, the next major pain point relates to how they invoice their clients. So the time and the effort that is expended to gather all the information to help understand how much you should be billing your client, it is a chronic monthly ailment. And because we all know that our projects can have pretty complex billing requirements, trying to figure out how much to invoice at any particular time is either pure guesswork or it's an exercise that nobody really enjoys. The next headache is how project managers kind of deliver on their responsibilities. And these are individuals who are most often trained as architects, and at some point in their career, they are deemed worthy of managing projects. And it's a rather rare architectural firm that actually invests in both the training of their managers and invests in the technology that they give their managers so that they have the right tool for the job. And my belief is every project manager is actually a business manager. And the idea being that they're the manager of, they're like the CEO of their own little business. And that business is the project. So they need to have the means and the methods at their disposal to responsibly lead that project to success for both the client as well as the firm. And lastly, since I just mentioned technology, most firms suffer from having a lot of disparate applications to perform all their various tasks, and it results in three unnecessary issues. First is there are added costs for having to purchase or subscribe to lots of different software products. Second is that these systems really don't even talk to one another, which means you often end up entering data multiple times into those different unrelated systems. And third, because these applications aren't speaking to one another in real time, you can't make wise, actionable decisions at the right time. It's like having your car's gas tank tell you every 2 weeks about how much fuel you have remaining. And if this were the case, most of us would end up stranded on the side of the road and totally out of gas. But this is actually how most firms operate. So it is no wonder that architects are really the least profitable of all professions. So what are the results of those pain points? Well, first, they're really quite obvious. Since your staff doesn't have a clear understanding of what is expected of them at any moment in time, they aren't as productive. And your managers have to stop their work to help administrators get information about the state of their projects to help them with their reporting. That makes them less productive. And the principals and the partners have less time to do what they love. And because it takes a long time to produce your invoices, and you have to deal with all of that as well as the accounts receivables in a manual fashion, your cash flow cycle takes longer. And if your firm has non-technical or overhead employees, you're having them waste their valuable time on mundane, repetitive work. And their time can be spent on revenue-producing efforts like marketing and business development. And furthermore, if you're a small firm without the means to have non-billable employees, you're actually taking that precious time away from your billable employees to deal with those administrative tasks. And lastly, when a firm doesn't have a clear, accurate, and actionable information about everything that's going on within the company, within their respective projects, you're going to make uninformed decisions, which will no doubt also impact your profitability. What too many firms don't do is they don't set up their firm's management systems to be as elegant as the construction documents that they're producing for their clients. So just like you rely on your CAD or your BIM software to handle your design and your deliverables, you must rely on a management solution to handle your company. And the secret sauce for real firm management is having all of that data in a single source of truth that is always in real time. So that means, for example, you should never have to manually open spreadsheets, or Excel in order to figure out the amount of time that people have been spending on something or what the financial implications of that might be. And I can't tell you the number of firms that I see that manage their data using spreadsheets. And if you are doing this, I'd like to let you know that that is comparable to having your firm do all of their drafting by hand rather than using their CAD or BIM software. So if you walked into a firm today where there were no computer workstations and instead everybody had drafting tables with T-squares or Maylines and triangles and pounce and brushes scattered about, what would you think? But that is what I think when I see firms that use Excel or spreadsheets for their regular business functions. Okay, one last slide before we dive in. What this slide shows us is what I see going on in nearly every architectural firm, regardless of size. So again, either you're working with lots of little disconnected applications that are very good at one thing, but they don't connect or they don't communicate to any other application. Or on the other extreme, we see so many firms that have invested painfully large sums of money into their legacy ERP solutions, which are based on technologies that are no longer relevant. And these legacy solutions might represent the state of the art that was available at the time, but they are embarrassingly cumbersome by today's standards. And making matters worse, most firm owners are reluctant to let those old systems go because of all their sunk costs, and they're hoping to milk every dollar that they've invested rather than make the effort to modernize your firm. What I would like you all to accept is that what you have today is not optimal. And instead, I want you to replace these with our all-in-one platform that is built on the most modern leading edge technologies. So you need to think of this as a business platform to handle nearly everything except the actual design work, for which you're using your CAD or BIM software. So notice, it includes simple things like time and expense tracking and creating or automating your invoicing process with a deep understanding of the unique needs of architects. We give managers the tools to actually manage their projects successfully. There's a client relationship management tool that allows you to not just manage projects, but win new business. We have a human resources module. We have customizable dashboards, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, a full accounting module that uses both machine learning and artificial intelligence, and it gets smarter as you use it. You have the ability to not only invoice your clients electronically, but receive your payments electronically, meaning accounting happens without any human interaction. We give you custom reports and invoices so your firm can have analysis of your business the way you want it, and you can invoice your clients with the look and feel that you like. There's business intelligence that's built in and it allows you to make the best decisions in real time. We have artificial intelligence so you don't have to make decisions and let the software act on your behalf. And lastly, we have open APIs so Core can connect with most any other modern application. So let me take a look at what all it means when it comes to the BQE Core Architect platform. So we're going to start by looking at our customizable dashboards. And so what you're looking at here is a financial dashboard. I won't go into all of these widgets, but understand this is real-time information. So for example, on the far right, our Core Cloud is connected to my checking account, my savings account, my credit card account. So I don't need to leave and open up some website to go to my bank to find out what the state of the finances are. Not only are they there for me, but they pull in all of the individual transactions into our accounting platform. But finances is just one thing I might be interested in. I also have dashboards that I put together that help me with when I'm wearing a different hat, like my personal dashboard right here instantly shows me data being pulled from the database. On the upper left, I see my project status. These are the projects I'm responsible for. I can see the Aspen Cultural Center has an alert next to it, and I can drill down into it and see that, for example, the schematic design phase is in trouble, that there's a $125,000 contract, and I can see my team has spent $192,000. We're not going to be able to recoup most of those costs. But of course, Core has tools inside it that can prevent that from happening. I can put a rule on my project which prevents my team from exceeding our contract or exceeding their budget. Or if I said that I want Michael to only spend 40 hours doing schematic design, he can't put more than 40 hours in his time card. So we have a lot of smart tools to stop that particular issue from happening. And while you're looking at my personal dashboard, down below you see all of my to-dos, and people who have permission can add items on my to-do list, and I can also report back the level of completion. So if it's not complete, I can tell them I'm just 75% done with things. I have access to project documents right there on my dashboard. So if I'm remote from the office, I don't need to get a VPN and log into get past my firewall to get into our file server, to the L drive, to the active projects folder to find the particular documents I want. Our core cloud can deliver those to me anywhere I am on Earth. I'll also take you to another dashboard I have. It's called my team's performance dashboard. And you'll notice on the upper left, I'm looking at my staff's utilization rates. It's averaging out at 84, almost 85% right now. I can feel good or bad about that, how I feel about it. To the right of that is what I call my staff effective rate. This is a piece of business intelligence where Core is looking in real time at what is the preferred hourly bill rate if any of these people work hourly on projects. What are they averaging on the projects that have been going on, in this case, for the past 12 months? But what effectively have they brought us? And it could be more or less, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Down below, you can see employee performance. I can see, because Core is able to match up all of the work people have been doing on my projects and all the revenue we've been receiving on those projects, and match up each person's contribution towards that revenue. And I can see that Jan DeMarco has, over the last 12 months, brought the most revenue based on the work she's been doing in our firm to the company. And to the right of that, I can even take a look at what all the activities my staff has been doing. I like a lot of granular activities. I break down things like BIM modeling or elevations or plans or sections or schedules, so I can see how much time we spend and what kind of revenue we make from that. So these dashboards are just bringing that out in real time to me. I won't waste your time with some of these other items here, but I do have another dashboard I'll just share with you, which is my business development dashboard. So if you're using that CRM, the client relationship management tool, in order to do marketing campaigns and start to get leads for which you can nurture and then turn them into your prospects, for which you're going to create opportunities, which is where you use our proposal builder tool, and hopefully you win those proposals, those opportunities, and those turn into real projects. So here I'm getting real live information about what are all of the state of all the requests for proposals and requests for qualifications that are out there, these opportunities that we hopefully have, what stage of the funnel they are in. On the bottom right, I can see all of the follow-ups. So if we want to make sure that we do win these contracts, who is going to take care of following up with our prospect and win that? So I'm managing that on this particular dashboard. Okay, what I'm going to do next is show you the most essential piece of data in our database, which, as I mentioned earlier, comes from time, where you spend your time. So I'm going to move down into our time card. And the most interesting thing about our time card is every week, Core will automatically use its business intelligence to let each employee know what they should be working on that week. So our managers are telling our projects, how they're scheduled out, who's working on them, what their expectations are. And when an employee works on their time card, they're going to see right there on screen that these are the projects and the activities that I should be working on. And if I just go into one of those cells, you'll see right on the upper right that for the design development, doing details on the Spotlight Theater project, I have been allocated 24 hours to work on it. It's noticing I've already put in 3 hours and I have 21 hours remaining. So every one of these items here is, I'm able to see what is expected of me by my boss, what has been put in here. And I could just add in some hours right down below and write a description about what I've been working on here. And once I've completed my time card, typically most firms will want those time cards to be reviewed by an administrator or the boss project manager, whatever you want to call it. So here I'm just going to take my time card and submit them to a manager. Now, I am a manager myself, so the system is giving me the opportunity to decide who I want it to go to. And I'll write a little note here which says, please approve my time, and then I submit it. Now, instantly, Core will mark them. You can see the little icon there, mark them all as submitted. And in my notifications area, I get to see that some time entries have been submitted for approval. Now, I should mention that this notifications area is highly critical, because just like you might wake up in the morning and look at your email and see you've got 120 unread emails, and then email sort of takes over your day for you. It kind of hijacks what you plan to do. In Core, we use notifications to let the users know what's important about their day that should be important. So typically you'll wake up, you might see 3 or 4 notifications there. And they could be things like, so-and-so, Michael submitted his time card for me to review. Or it could be, I didn't complete my time card for yesterday, or I didn't complete my time card for last week, depending on what the preferences are for the firm and for the user. So it's a great place to start. What should I be paying attention to? And get on with your day. All of those little items on that list there, they're all linkable. You can click any one of them. It will take you off to the thing that you need to pay attention to. So not only am I being notified in our notifications area, but I also get an email notification. That's my preference. So not only did the Core application tell me in-app, but it sent me an email telling me that these employees have sent me their time to be reviewed. And I don't need to go into Core. I can actually just click at the bottom where it says memo, please approve my time, click the green approve button, and the time will be approved, and the employee will also be notified that Steve approved their time. So wonderful features in there for your time card, making that pretty effortless. Okay, let me get into some business intelligence going on here. So I want to share with you project performance. We give you the real-time performance for your projects, for the phases of your projects, for your clients, for your employees, and even for your vendors. Maybe you work with 5 different structural engineering firms. Which one is the most beneficial, most profitable for your firm to work with? So let's take a look. I'm going to go to my projects. And first thing, by the way, is these are the projects I have access to. We give you a little info bar at the top about what is the value of the work in progress that has been approved. We just did that approval process that's ready to be invoiced onto the client. What's the total value of the work in progress? Some of it hasn't yet been approved. And what is the balance due that is late? So the accounts receivables for this group of projects that is now past due is all instantly there. We think those are key performance indicators, KPIs you ought to know about. I'm going to just drill into the Pasadena Elementary School and share with you the performance in real time. And by the way, you'll notice in the upper right, it says period. So you can actually take a look at what's the performance of this project this year to date, or whatever date range you might like. You'll notice that there's $71,000 of work in progress, and there's a $15,000 retainer. Good for me to know that when my client signs our contract, they give us a deposit, we put it in an escrow account, the client fund account, we apply it to the final invoice or invoices as we wind down the project. So I'm still holding $15,000. You'll also notice on the far right, there's an item called cost. As of this very second in time, my firm has spent $274,071. That's money out of the firm owner's pockets that they've invested for all the people who have touched this project and all of the expenses that have been associated with this project. So if an employee put an hour on their time card right now, the cost to me as an employer for that employee to work for 1 hour for my firm is being reflected in that little item there. There's some other widgets like the bottom. I'm not going to take you through all of these, but that's real-time intelligence about the performance of this project. You could see on the left, my clients paid 95% of their invoices. They still owe me $12,000. We've burned through 43% of our fees. We still have a backlog of work for $271,952. My project is currently at a 19% profit. Good to know. My client has been billed gross billings of $236,270, and the cost that my firm incurred to generate that revenue was $191,160. That's my $45,000 profit right there, and some other things. So I also want you to notice that while I'm in that project, I could see how it has been budgeted. So if I have a template project, maybe I'm doing a healthcare facility or a residential project or institutional projects, I will have preset budgets typically, and then I could finesse them once I created my new project from my template project. And I could break out my work breakdown structure any way I like. It could vary from project template to project template. I could break out my hours to individuals or roles in the firm, design team, project manager, principal, whatever you might have. So I just have a little snapshot of what that looks like here. I can actually have access directly in the core application, again, to any digital asset. Okay, so here's all the documents that are linked to this project, all of the to-dos. Think of that as a checklist. In schematic design, have I got a signed contract? Did I do the zoning and code analysis? Did I solicit proposals from my consultants? Whatever those to-dos are for every phase of the project can be looked at, assigned to individuals, and monitored to see if they've been completed. And any notes. So as your employees might be on the phone, having a conversation with a client or a consultant, they would add their notes. You can search how many times have I mentioned Spalding Concrete, to Bob the builder on the XYZ project. So this is an area where your people enter notes, but also the system will enter its own notes. Maybe the project had something major happen, like the contract change. We'll add those notes into the system automatically for you as well. Also just wanted you to see in another screen where I could see instantaneously what the totals of that budget were that I showed you earlier. How are we performing to date? What have we invoiced to date? And compare those side by side, or flip between my budget and the contract. So the contract's what a client is expecting. And you'll notice on the far right, there's a percentage complete value. That's typically where your managers will just update what they believe is their subjective interpretation of the level of completion, which will be used by our billing system when it comes around to generating invoices, if it is based on a percentage of the contract price. By the way, while I'm on that screen, I can click the reports and only one report related to that, and boom, that report is made available to me on screen, and I could email that to somebody or send it to the printer, whatever I'd like there. Now I'm going to look at my performance for a particular employee. So I'm going to drill down and look at my list of employees, and we'll take a look. By the way, you see the info bar at the top, very similar to what we saw at projects, but for example, you'll notice in the upper right, $837. So Core is acknowledging that my staff has maybe been using their car for car mileage. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, or tracking expenses. They took a client out to lunch and they need to be reimbursed. So I owe my staff $837. But let's look at Jan DeMarco and look at her performance. I won't go through all of this, but I do want you to see the system is now giving me some business intelligence. What has been her effective bill rate? On the far left, $174 an hour. That means every hour Jan has touched projects over the duration, this is all dates, but it could be like last 6 months, we have earned $174. It's telling me what Jan costs my company. She's costing us $140 for every hour she works. Core understands not only her salary and the multiple of salary expense and her utilization rate and her realization rate, it also knows my profit expectations. And it's understanding, based on how Jan performs, if she billed out at $167 an hour as a baseline for whenever she does hourly services, we will make our 20% profit. It's also telling me on the far right, I should have a salary of $54 an hour. That's typically a data point most firms don't share with their employees, but it's saying if I paid her $54 an hour, we would make our 20% profit. And by the way, you'll notice under margins, she has a 20% margin. So I am in fact paying her that because I expect a 20% profit. She's also had a fairly low utilization rate of 84%, but notice her billing has a realization rate of 89%. So I may not be happy that she's only spending 84% of her time on projects, but 89 cents out of every dollar that we could possibly get from her has actually been earned for the firm, which is a fairly decent number right there. I do want to share with you now probably the most beneficial feature I see from our users, and that has to do with our reporting module. So if we take a look at the reporting module, which is probably also the least interesting area of Core, but this is a library of over 200 standard reports, and I will just do a search for profit reports, and I have one here like a project profitability report. Now, it will remember the last time I ran it, what were my criteria, and I had 3 projects. I'll just make it 2 projects right now. And when I continue, it generates that report, and boom, right there on screen, instant profitability report, where I could see what have we invoiced, what's the work in progress, a bunch of other items there. What have we spent on our services? What have we spent on all expenses? What's my profit and loss? So pretty nice report. But why would you stop in your day and run a report if you know you need reports? So this is the feature I wanted to share with you, which is scheduled reports. You simply tell the system, hey, I want to get a report on Fridays. Friday means weekly. I like to get my report on Friday at 10 in the morning. And maybe I want it to go to not just me, maybe a group of people. And I'll have it go to all the people that are principals in the firm and project managers. And then I'll give the report a nice title, like it's Steve's project profitability report. And I'll just give them a message, because it's going to go as an email every Friday at 10 a.m. That report will be sent off to those recipients, with this case, a PDF of that report attached. Brilliant feature, because we see our virtual servers expanding up on the various time zones around the world. On Fridays at 5 p.m., balance sheets and profit loss statements go off to the partners in the firm. And Monday mornings, project status worksheets showing the managers, who's working on your project this week and how many hours do you have them? What are the pending RFIs and submittals? What are the pending to-dos? What's the budget versus actual? Whatever you want the managers to know, that will be sent in a report at 7 a.m. And no one has to stop in their day, generate reports, gather data, print them out, put them on people's desks, and then find out that, Steve came in from a project site, dumped his drawings on the table and never looked at that report ever. So get the reports to the people who need it at the time of day or the day of the week when they're most inclined to want to read that data. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up here in just a second. I don't have time to share with you all the details behind our powerful invoicing system. Suffice it to say that there really is nothing else available for AE firms that comes close to the power we provide. So Core Architect will understand all the unique requirements your firm has. Perhaps you're billing concept or schematic design hourly with a cap. Maybe the design development, the construction documents, and the contractor selection are all being a fixed fee based on a percentage of the cost of construction. Perhaps the contract administration services are being billed hourly with no cap, and those are just your basic services. Maybe you have some additional services that might be billing hourly at different billing rates than the basic services, or they're at fixed fee services. So Core will understand all of the rules for your project. It'll all be automated, so you never leave any money on the table. And by the way, when it comes to the look and feel of your invoices, there is really no limitation. Not only do we have dozens of invoice templates, but if your firm has some unique requirement, or you have a client that has a very unique requirement on how an invoice should be presented, we can accommodate that as well. So here you're looking at a simple hourly invoice, a standard invoice template we have showing full detail in my expenses at the bottom. Here I might be looking at that same invoice, but I didn't want to show my client too much information, so I summarized it by their role or by their name. And then lastly, maybe I have a blended invoice that has some of our fixed fee services at the top, where I bill based on a percentage complete. And then below that, I might have some additional services, and then I have some expenses on that. And by the way, notice that there is a Pay Now button right there on there. So when a principal or a partner or a manager approves the invoice in Core, it can automatically email it to your client. And if you give them that pay electronically permission, they can click that blue button and the money will transfer automatically. And when that happens, there is zero touch for your firm. Core will notify the appropriate people in your office that the client has paid their invoice. Reconciliation happens automatically in the back end. Money is moved automatically into the associated bank account that you have. Great feature there. Only a few years ago, people totally dismissed the value of mobility for business. Today, we know it is essential, and that is why BQE software has what's called a mobile-first approach. We believe our software should provide you the full, rich features of our platform, no matter what device you are on. And we do this with native mobile apps for iOS and Android, whereas most of our competitors have a browser app for mobile devices. And we've created the apps that exploit the unique instruments on your mobile device. You see that at the top of this slide here. So for example, we use the motion sensor, the accelerometer, and the GPS in order to automatically track your travel. And we make the recommendation for which travel our AI believes is project related. In fact, it will recognize the time that you might spend in your client's office or at a project site and recommend that that time be added to your time card, and it links it to the associated project. So we are moving from a world where we used to say you should never enter data twice to a paradigm where you never even need to enter data, period. So after all I just shared with you, you might be wondering, wow, this sounds too good to be true. Why haven't I heard of BQE software? Well, perhaps we're the most amazing software you've never heard of, but look at what some others are saying. Last year, the Architects newspaper, which is really a premier publication here in the United States, awarded us the best product for planning and management. PC Magazine listed their top 10 software products for billing and invoicing and placed BQE Core at the top of that list. CPA Practice Advisors, by the way, gave us the coveted Technology Innovation Award for the innovations that we made using artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and machine learning. And there are numerous independent software review sites that put BQE Core at the top of their recommendation list. And another thing that sets us, by the way, apart from all of our competition is that we provide you unlimited 24/7, 365 technical support. So if it is 2 in the morning on a Saturday and you are trying to do something in Core and you are unsure, you will have a conversation with one of our knowledgeable and friendly support engineers within a minute. And I can guarantee 3 major changes in your firm after implementing Core. Your employees will be happier, you will have better project visibility, you will make smarter decisions, and finally, your back office will be dramatically enhanced by having those mundane, repetitive tasks eliminated. So, Michael, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time to watch and listen. If you want to learn more, please visit the webpage shown on the screen, which has been specifically made for our attendees. And while you're there, you can even book a live demo with one of our sales engineers who will be happy to discuss how BQE Core Architect can bring more value to your firm. And with that, Michael, I'll hand it back to you for any questions you may have.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Steve. A really decent and very comprehensive overview of BQE software there. I've got a couple of questions that I've scribbled down during your presentation. Some of the points you've covered and some I just want a bit more information on. Let's first talk about billing. So does Core support percentage billing and fixed fee billing?
No, absolutely. It supports almost every method of billing I've ever seen happen in any architectural firm before. So you might do unit cost billing, right? Where you bill X dollars per square foot or square meter, whatever your measurement is, or a percentage of the cost of construction. But one of the really amazing things is not only do we support that, but we support that at every phase level. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you might bill some of your phases out using one, like hourly, because in schematic design, we don't really know how much time our client, is going to need to come up with the right concept. So we allow that to be billed hourly, but we might also tell the client, well, we'll cap it at a number. So even though we're tracking time on our time card, the system knows you can't exceed this number and it will prevent you from billing over what your client is expecting. Whereas the other phases might be based on a fixed fee, and you're just saying I'm billing, 30% of my fee will go to design development and 45% will go to construction documents and 5% for bidding or tendering, whatever you might call it. So it will calculate all that and it will manage to produce those invoices to meet those requirements.
What are the different invoice templates then, Steve, in Core that support both percentage and fixed billing? Is that something that we can customize?
Well, we do have a lot of standard templates, and we have them in 5 different categories, like, phased invoices or, hourly, but there is no limit as I mentioned in the presentation. So if your firm has a special requirement, and a lot of architects are very particular about the aesthetics of everything they do, right? So not just their buildings, or their architecture, but every piece of paper that, that goes in front of their client, they want it to be exquisite. So if you're not happy with any of our invoice templates, there is really no limit to what you can do. You simply provide us a template of what that should look like. we'll build that for you. We plug it in. You can use it for all your projects, or you might have a client, as I mentioned earlier, that might have a specific requirement that might even need something very strange. Like maybe they require Excel spreadsheets for their invoices because they're just considering their architect as a vendor, and they just plug them into a massive spreadsheet for all of their vendors for a particular type of project. So there really is no limit, but we do have a lot of template files that you can choose from, and they tend to serve 80% of our user base right now.
What about document management, Steve? Is that something that Core supports?
It does support it in various ways. So every record in Core can have a document or multiple documents linked to it. So for example, if you're entering, you're out at a project site, at a construction site, and you're putting in your time, you could document all the photographs that you had taken while you were there. So that, those 10 photos could be linked to your time and is available at the project level. But you can link, proposal letters. If you're using our CRM module, will also be the proposal building tool inside of the CRM module, which will use your proposal templates, and that will create a document that you will link. But you can link reports, scanned receipts, invoices, bills, documents. You can paste URLs from a website or a YouTube video into a project. In fact, a lot of firms will have product cut sheets that from a website for various vendors, all of our electrical fixtures, and they'll just have the URL to that, and they will link that to the project as well to have a record of it. So there's really no limit, and you can even connect Core to cloud services for that storage. So you don't need to use our clouds to store your documents. You can store it on Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive or Box.net. There's many cloud storage that integrate with our Core platform.
How does Core, Steve, then report the times, say, spent on the architectural project before signing the contract fees or determining the contract amount?
So there's a variety of ways, and typically our trainers will work with the firm to find out what kind of suits the way they operate. So, for example, a lot of firms will create a marketing project. They'll have their regular projects, which might be all billable. Then they'll have a project for marketing, and they might have sub-projects in it for each one of their opportunities that they're chasing after. And even if they're using our CRM module and dealing with follow-ups and to-dos and putting together proposals, they can turn that into time on those marketing projects. But what tends to happen is when the project is won, they will want to move all of those time and expenses that they did while they were in the marketing stage and link that to the newly created project. It won't be billable because it'll probably be linked to a pre-design phase or a marketing phase, but it's there. And then you get really interesting reporting because you'll find out how much money you really spent in your firm to win a project. And then you'll find out how much money you actually earned on the project, and the cost that you invested in winning it probably should be looked at to give you a more accurate idea about what the eventual profitability is.
You mentioned the fantastic looking mobile apps, both on Android and iOS. Does this software work offline? Say, is there a computer app which can be downloaded?
Okay, so the mobile apps are native mobile apps for iOS and Android. They are downloaded from Google Play or Apple iTunes Store, but they do require connectivity. Okay, so you either have internet or cellular connectivity to get to the cloud. Unfortunately, if there is no cloud to get that data, because remember, it's in real time. So there's data coming in from people who are traveling on the road. And if you're offline, you can't really rely on that. So unfortunately, you do need to have some connection to the cloud in order to get the applications to really function for you.
Can you comment on how you've used the system to inform your preparation of a fee proposal?
Well, the more you use the Core platform, the more accurate data you're going to have. So you can actually do analysis. So if I was just invited to do a new project for a gymnasium at a high school, and this is the kind of work I do typically, I would look at a report where I filter it down to all the projects where I did sports facilities for, educational facilities, to find out how many hours we invested in that, at what roles were they, what were the costs that we incurred to do that, the billable or non-billable expenses that were associated with the project. And again, if I'm accurately tracking my time, which hopefully we've built a time card that makes it possible so people put the time in when it happens, not a week later and they're faking it all, you get much more accurate data so that you can be more refined with your proposals and have them actually resemble what it will eventually cost you to do the project, so you know that that profit that you're expecting will be realized. So typically reporting is what people will use. They'll do an analysis report of budget versus actual, or actual time spent and expenses spent, and then you can build your quotes in our CRM module, or build your estimates in our normal project module that you can share with your client. Estimates are more of your estimation of what you want to do with it. Your client can sign off of that, and that's what typically you'll use to build your budget from. So there's processes that we've instituted in the core platform that understand the needs of an architecture and engineering firm, and you should just learn how to use those tools and implement them, and you will be better off for that.
What's the typical customer size that your product caters for, Steve?
Well, that's kind of interesting. It is. I like to make an analogy, which is, I've never heard a firm ask, is the CAD software they're using made for small firms or large firms, right? So there are firms that are probably using the CAD or BIM software that all of your attendees today are using, that are used by firms with thousands of employees as well as sole proprietors. And that's the way we look at our core platform. Certainly if you look at our customer base, the average firm size is like 12 employees, but that is the nature of the industry. It is typically a small firm industry, but we also have firms with hundreds and hundreds of users of the platform. And we have a few that are just sole proprietors who like having a structure in their firm that they can rely on and not be, dealing with pieces of paper and everything's new and nobody knows where anything is. So just the way I think of it, just the way your CAD software is used by sole proprietors and multinational firms, Core is the same way.
Okay. My final question then to you, Steve, the pricing structure, what's that like?
So Core is a modular solution. So the pricing really depends on what the user is going to consume. And it may vary from employee to employee in a firm. So you might have a number of employees who are really using it for very rudimentary features, just like time tracking. And they could be paying, typically on average, like as little as $13 per month, Australian, per user. And then there are the management types, or people in accounting, or principals in the firm, or project managers, or billing managers, whatever you might have. They'll be using more of those tools, and they could be paying, let's say, up to $30 per month per user, Australian. So it really varies. It's not a one price for everybody, and then half the people don't even use half those tools. We've tried to make it fair. Like if you were at a buffet and you're putting food on a plate, you only pay for what you consume. So if you really contact our sales team, which you can, when you go to that website that I was showing you on screen, they can give you, by finding out what is your firm size and what are the roles, they can give you a more accurate idea about what the expected pricing should be.
Okay, that's really fantastic. I really like that opportunity to, only pay for what you use. It's fair and equitable and makes great business sense. Well, that's really it. Thanks so much, Steve, for joining us today all the way from Los Angeles. I would say for those of you who are watching this, don't forget info.bqe.com/showcase. That website again, info.bqe.com/showcase. And of course, if you want to pick up the phone, 1300-245-566, 1300-245-566 to speak to one of the fantastic sales engineers at the BQE team there. Thanks so much for joining us on this showcase session. I hope you found this very interesting session, and I hope you've seen that BQE has demonstrated how easily your architectural firm can streamline workflows and accounting. That is it. I'm Michael Linke, your host for this showcase session. Thanks very much for joining me. Look forward to seeing you on another showcase session very soon. Cheers.